Pandemic, shaky economy, human rights violations, and riots. What might be coming next, and why is it all happening? Leo Knighton Tallarico, a longtime professional astrologer, will show us the planetary movements behind all this transformation. Is it possible extraterrestrial beings are a part of all this? Sit back and enjoy the ride as Leo takes us on a journey into the cosmos, showing us humanity's movement into the age of Aquarius, which will unite us all, even in the face of our world's challenges. And now, Perspectives from the Sky with Leo.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Perspectives from the Sky on December 18th, 2021. Sometimes I just say, you know how you write it, and then right then I went, God, 2021. Actually, 2022, very soon. So those of you who've watched before know that this show is about transformation of consciousness into a new age of Aquarius, which we have and which we see and view as having begun on winter solstice 2020 and will last for 2,160 more years. That's how long the Pisces age was approximately. Say about maybe 100 years before Christ was born, was the beginning of the age, Roman Empire going on at the same time. And so now we have another empire, Western civilization, NATO, America, empire, a building empire in China. Russia's not a slouch either. And at the same time, there's not a savior coming anymore, because that was the last age, looking for the savior, looking for the one to save us from whatever it is that we're being hurt by, traumatized by. But now, in the age of Aquarius, it's about the group, the collective. We are the ones we've been waiting for. No more saviors. This is our world, of the people, by the people, and for the people. So look at all that's going on in our world. I'm going to tell you about this week, which is a loaded week of planetary movements, important ones. But first, let's just take a look at the fact that this latest eclipse season started in early November, and it's still going on, even though the last eclipse was on December 3rd, 4th. We still are in the eclipse season because we have all these other aspects going on. You can feel the intensity is still there. I believe by the time we get into early January, we'll be out of the eclipse season. Transformation of consciousness out of one age and into another. I know these last couple of weeks, this is happening with a lot of eclipse seasons over the last few years, much more than when I first started studying astrology. There always was intensity and change during eclipse seasons, but more so lately. And I think that's because we're are in this powerful transition between ages. And so everything is so intense as people are going through crises based on transformation. Now, there's always or usually a initial spiritual awakening that happens. And not for everybody. Some people maybe were connected on a spiritual path when they were kids. I know I had a spiritual awakening in late 70s. I was the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know everybody's going through challenges. And a lot of times those challenges are because they're up against a spiritual awakening or a challenge to that previous awakening to keep you on the path. And sometimes you have to let go of a relationship. Sometimes you have to let go of a job. Sometimes you have to just work on your attitudes and your belief systems and to keep yourself on the path, on track with your spiritual path. And by spiritual path, I don't mean that, your whole life is only about spirituality. I mean that the spiritual awakening actually takes you out of an old consciousness and brings you into a new consciousness. And that new consciousness is connected to the new age we're moving into. I have a guest today that's going to talk with me more about this, Belinda Wolfson. We'll talk about exactly what she does, but just suffice it to say that she has a lot of experience and knowledge about consciousness and trauma and about moving through these things. And there'll be a discussion on psychedelics as she's going for her PhD in psychedelics. Interesting, huh? So let me take you back to my own spiritual awakening. At the time, I was selling insurance, managing a staff of insurance salesmen, something I really hated. And I would do well at it only because I knew how to talk well and sell, but I hated it. But it was a way to make money, so I was fine with it. And then I had a dream of being a singer. I had singing lessons starting when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and got into plays and singing on my own, singing with a band, singing in a nightclub on my own. So I had a dream about that. But then a friend of mine who was also in the insurance business with me said he wanted me to attend a class with him that he wanted to invest some money in. I said, okay, fine. He said, no, Leo, you got to go to the class. Check it out. See if you like it. See if it speaks to you. I said, okay, cool. So he told me it's a 2-weekend class called Silva Mind Control. Whoa, mind control? No, what do you mean? He said, no, not controlling someone controlling your mind or you controlling anyone else's mind. You're controlling your own mind. Like a lot of times, like fear will get the best of us, or certain thoughts and stories will go through our minds forever, keeping us stuck in certain places in our consciousness and in our minds and hearts. He says, this is about learning how to control your mind so that you can move through these things. And he says, then on the last day of the class, students will pair up and they'll give the name and the date of, not even the date of birth, just the name and where they are, where they're living currently. And then you'll be able to scan their bodies and tell them what kind of illnesses sit in that person's body. Oh, really? Sure, right. So I figured I'd go to this class and I'd be laughing by the end. I certainly had no connection to that world at all. No connection to the world that I do now with the astrology and the transformational counseling and things like that. No connection at all. So at the end of the 2 weekends, and the first couple of days, 3 days were wonderful too, because I learned how to meditate. I could not even believe where I was going through meditation, how connected I was to something that I really didn't recognize. And I was getting calmer and more centered. And a lot of the programming that had been, like, happens to all of us, programming from family and from culture, with this mind control, I was able to work on that. They had pain control techniques. So if you have pain in your body, you could work on those pain control. Memory peg techniques for your memory. Just a lot of really good mind-altering practices. Then on the last day, after all these 40 hours of training, pairing up with somebody else, and then so somebody gave me initials of somebody that they knew and where they lived. And I just remember closing my eyes and getting down in my meditative space and rattling off all these ailments that I saw in this person's body. Appendix recently taken out, a scar across their neck on the right side. And even got into describing how the person actually looked outside of just illnesses. But I thought I was BSing. I did. It's just the words were coming out of my mouth, and I said, well, yeah, right. This person's going to laugh at me. 100% correct. All the things I said. Wow. That was the beginning of my spiritual awakening. It was helped by the fact that I was going to continue to work within that field, because I was going to help run and market and teach this course, Silva Mind Control, all over the Midwest. We were based in Chicago. So doing that, that alone, just being able to stay there and keep doing that kind of work on a daily basis while I'm at work. We were making money from taking the course all over, so I was able to make a living in a different way. And then I'd go to metaphysical bookstores. I have, as people often say, the astrology books were falling off the shelves looking at me. And my identity, my sense of self, everything just was up for grabs. It wasn't too long before the relationship I was in was no longer. So career, work, marriage, and family too. I've been in Chicago for my whole life, and Italian American families, they're really close knit. So you don't leave. I did. I left. I ended up going out to Bay Area, California, and started a whole new life, all beginning from that spiritual awakening. This is what a lot of people are going through now. I mean, really, a lot of people are going through this. And it's because we are changing our consciousness from one age to the next. And as we change our consciousness from one age to the next, our consciousness has to be challenged by how we used to think. And so a lot of the crises happen when we get into a difficult position in life, in our marriage, in our relationships, in our friendships, where we live, what our career is. And we're challenged to stay on the path, or we get thrown off the path. I was conscious of a lot of the crises that came up, that this is what the issue was. A lot of people aren't well versed in that. That's why we have a lot of counselors now. And I know that Belinda's one of them. Deborah, who will be on later today too, she's going to do a meditation for the full moon and for winter solstice, which is a couple of days away. I'll tell you about the week in a little while, the week coming up. But she'll be on for a really deep meditation, the last probably maybe 10, 15 minutes of the meditation, so you can get yourself in a good space inside yourself with so much going on. We'll let Belinda on before her, and she'll tell us about how she's dealt with consciousness crises in her life and in her clients' lives. Let me look at the week ahead now for you. Now keep in mind that change your consciousness from one age to the next is not a small thing. It's a big thing. I mean, right now, a lot of what our consciousness is like in this world is, quite arguably a male-dominated way of looking at things. Winning is everything, survival of the fittest, left brain, logical thinking, solves all, fixes all. And it's been this way for thousands of years, not just recently, but right now, there's such a huge wave of the feminine that's coming through all of our consciousness and in our lives. And it's not all just about Me Too movement, not that way of being, although that is important too. But it's about starting to see life as a process, as a mystery, as something that's not to be used to fix everything, but to be with the process of things, to be with the soul, to be with the spirit, to be with the connections more than anything else. The new world is about connections. In the old world, a lot of people just believe that everything is kind of random chance. Philosophically speaking, a person goes back and forth on how to look at these things a lot during their lives, at least I did. How much is chance? How much is meant to be? How much is choice? Now, these are things you're going to go through or you've gone through already. And you may have changed more than once of what it is. We'll talk a little bit more about that today too. Maybe Belinda will get into a conversation with me on that philosophically. Here's what's coming up this week. Today, 8:36 p.m. Pacific, 9:36 p.m. tonight, here, Mountain. Arizona's Mountain time now. And 11:36 on the East Coast is when this full moon is. And the full moon is a Gemini Sagittarius full moon. The reason I say both those signs is because what a full moon is, unlike a new moon is the sun and the moon are both in the same sign. A full moon is always 100% of the time. The sun is in one sign, and the moon is directly opposite, exactly opposite at another sign. So, for instance, in this full moon, the sun is at 27 degrees, 29 minutes of Sagittarius, and the moon is at 27 degrees, 29 minutes of Gemini. So what are some of the themes when you've got Gemini Sagittarius? Well, Gemini is a lot about the left brain, the logical brain. It's about taking in facts, delivering facts. It's about using your head a lot in life, thinking, about detached thinking without emotion. What's Sagittarius? Sagittarius is about you take the information and you find a conclusion, or you find a meaning, or you find a way of bringing it all together. Like, for instance, you could say that a typical Gemini would be like a reporter, a journalist, for instance. And you could say that a Sagittarian might be a lawyer, more specifically a judge, who's taking in all the information and then coming into some conclusion from that information. So that's Gemini Sagittarius. So while that's going on, sometimes people's minds can get overwhelmed with all the information. I haven't felt that so far with this one, but that happens oftentimes with the Gemini Sag full moon. Either way, with Sag, Sun and Gemini, vice versa. There's a lot of information and a lot of thinking and a lot of figuring things out. And sometimes people get overwhelmed. The nervous system gets overwhelmed. As I talked about it again, no, not really. So this is something that will have a lot to do with the next couple of days. And if you've got planets, let's just take your sun sign. Most people do know that. And it's in late mutable sign. Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, the end of that sign. This will have a stronger effect on you than with other people. This full moon is kind of important too, because it's a builds kind of a climax from the solar eclipse, new moon that happened on December 3rd, 4th. Now, this is kind of, when you have a full moon, it kind of builds kind of like a climax to the new moon. And then the moon starts fading, getting darker. And then you start like kind of bringing it all together, processing it, bringing it together, going inward, reflecting for the next new moon. So that's what you'll do after today. So that's our full moon. You'll feel that today, especially tonight, tomorrow. But the real beginning, or moving beyond it, I should say, will be about 2-3 days from now. Now, tomorrow is interesting. Tomorrow, Venus goes retrograde and Chiron goes direct. Venus retrograde happens about once every year and a half or so. And Venus is about relationship. Venus is about heart. Venus is about goddess. Venus is about feminine principles. It's a lot about relationships. So as it's going retrograde, the universe, your mind and soul, will start bringing you back. Perhaps to old relationships, memories, or just old patterns, or even in the current relationship, just needing to go deeper and process it. You can't just keep going forward mindlessly. When Venus goes retrograde, the time you got to be conscious and ready to deal with the issues around relationship, around heart issues, not physical ones, but psychological, energetic ones. And it'll last until January 29th. So that's quite a lot of time to be reflecting on the state of our relationships. And it's going retrograde in Capricorn. And Capricorn will be a highlighted sign pretty soon, because at the lunar solstice, we change from Sagittarius to Capricorn. And what's Capricorn about? Capricorn's about grounded and real. It's about discipline, organization. It's gravity. It's the hand of time. It's about getting it together. It's about being real. It's about setting up structures. It's about building. It's about following rules, being loyal, doing it the right way. Like I said before, getting it together and doing it the right way. It's about integrity. It's also a taskmaster energy. Cancer and Capricorn are opposite this way. Where Capricorn says, okay, we got a job to get done. No excuses. Cancer will go, let's say Cancer's a worker for Capricorn. They're building a house. Cancer goes, oh, my stomach hurts today. I do not think I can go into work on this house. And Capricorn's reaction internally is, come on. We got 7 days to finish this house. We don't have time for you to get sick. You're coming to work tomorrow or I'm docking your pay. Okay, that's an extreme, Capricorn. But that's just to paint the picture of that. And Cancer is not always whining, but there is a tendency to go with its flow and say, this is what I'm feeling today, so this is what I'm going to do. I know we're supposed to build a house, but I trust my nature, my feelings, and where I'm at right now. And I can't go to work. So hopefully they can have a dialogue and work that out. So there's Capricorn for you. So with Venus and Capricorn, you might be looking at the state of like, well, first of all, you look at the reality of your relationships, from a grounded place. Because a lot of times we just go on automatic with lots of things in life, including relationship. We don't really look at it, talk about it, things like that. So you'll talk about it from a more real standpoint because it's Capricorn. Again, it's about patterns, relationship patterns, and oftentimes just like Mercury retrograde, in our dreams, in our waking hours, we have memories or even the appearance of people that used to be in our lives. They'll come back, like I said, either in dreams, waking memories, or in reality. And they're coming back so that we can look more deeply at our current state of relationship by looking at how it was in the past. So I know you're ready for this. You're ready for relationships. Now, another thing that Venus is, it's the ruler of two signs. It's the ruler of Libra and it's the ruler of Taurus. And so it's not only about relationships, more the Libra end of things, but it's about how Taurus is, which is like just picture a woman in a hot tub, painting her nails, luxuriating in that hot tub. And that hot tub is in a beautiful house on, 7 acres of land. So it's a lot of goddess energy potentially, and it's also got a lot to do with money, possessions, land, things like that. So these issues may come up with it retrograde for you too, your financial situation, etc. Chiron going direct also tomorrow. Now Chiron, there's a lot of like BSing about Chiron that people do. They'll read a book and they'll say, oh, Chiron is the wounded healer. And maybe there's some truth to that, but let me tell you what Chiron really is. Chiron sits in the heavens between Saturn and Uranus. And as such, it sits as a bridge between our personal, normal, everyday self, you could say 3D self if you want, and our self that's a part of the divine, part of the transformational process, part of our higher self. So Chiron is a bridge between those two selves, really. When you see where it is in your chart, you can kind of get a sense of what it takes for you to find a balance between your higher and your normal everyday ego self. Remember, we don't want to kill the ego. We want to put it in its place. You're not running the show. You're running the show by fear. You're running the show by looking at yourself from an ego. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're doing it from our higher self. And maybe higher is not exactly the right word, but from our soul self, maybe even higher self. Because remember, Uranus was the first planet beyond Saturn. Remember, it's between Saturn and Uranus that Chiron sits. So you've got Uranus, then Neptune, then Pluto. These are the three transformational planets. And they came as ambassadors of the New Age. Uranus in 1781, right when the American and French revolutions were going on. Hello, that tells you what it's about. It's about breaking outside of the grip of dictators, presidents, kings, queens, and power to the people. That's what the revolutions were about. Breaking away and liberating ourselves from things that control us instead of us being free to decide for ourselves what our life is going to be like and what our world is going to be like. And this is a lot to do with the Aquarian age. Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius. Then in 1846, Neptune was discovered. What was going on then? Marx, Communist Manifesto. Forget the communist part. Oh my God, communist, what are you talking? Forget the word. What we're talking about is, the industry was having total control over workers at that time. And part of the Communist Manifesto is to give rights to the workers, to the people in industry and in business. And so that's what Marx wrote about. And a lot of people now are thinking we need a little more socialism in our systems so there can be more fairness. And hopefully there's going to be a balance between the two as we transform the system, because we are. And then in 1930, Pluto was discovered. Pluto has a lot to do with power. And there were a lot of powerful figures in the world stage then that were really, highlighted, famous. Al Capone and Stalin, Hitler, all roaming around that time. But at the same time, and this is where the importance of using power appropriately is. Power, so much in our world, don't forget we're new to power, so to speak, 1930, having that energy coming down for us. Power over is how most people relate to the power, right? What did Gandhi do in 1930? He led the Indian people in a civil disobedience against the British government. Again, this is part of the transformation of our consciousness, of our human family into a new world, into a new age. It's right there. So Chiron is a bridge between those two worlds, Saturn world and the transformational world, Uranus and out. Keep going in this week. We're almost to the end. 21st, winter solstice. That's at 7:59 a.m. Pacific this week. Now, that's only a couple days away, 4 days away. What's winter solstice? Well, every day been getting darker, more dark minutes in it. Every day since the autumn equinox, when it was equal. Day minutes and night minutes. Then at winter solstice, we reach the zenith of dark minutes. That's why a lot of people kind of get depressed at this time of year. Oftentimes the holiday, the Sagittarian spirit, helps them to not get too depressed. But there is a movement darker and darker and darker until winter solstice. And then on winter solstice, that's the day that the light returns. More minutes of light every day after that. And a lot of people believe, and I believe there's some credence to it, that the whole Christmas story and Christ, because I doubt Christ was actually born on December 25th. I know he wasn't born on December 25th. The whole Christ myth is about that at the darkest time, there's hope for humanity. He's crucified, but yet that's to bring hope for us all, is what that story is. So it fits in with winter solstice. So that's also about Sun in Capricorn for a month. It starts at the winter solstice. We talked a lot about Capricorn, right? That's why you get New Year's resolutions not too long after the winter solstice, because that's very Capricornian. I'm not going to do those things anymore. My addictions, no. I'm getting disciplined. I'm going to cut out all the things that are bad for me. I'm going to get it together. I'm going to build myself a life that's more clean and together and not filled with my own weaknesses. That's Sun in Capricorn time. 24th, Saturn will be square Uranus. The last 3 times it's been square to one another. This will be the last pass on the 23rd. And that'll be at 11 degrees of fixed sign. Saturn will be at 11 degrees of Aquarius, and Uranus will be at 11 degrees of Taurus. Saturn is about Capricorn. Saturn is the ruling planet of Capricorn. So it's about the rules, the regulations, keeping things steady, keeping things under control, keeping things the same, keeping things grounded, gravity, time. And Uranus is, just like we talked about before, discovered in 1781, breaking outside of the box, breaking outside of things that are controlling us, liberating ourselves from that which we are stuck in and stuck with. So they've been at war with each other, so to speak. Now, in the world, what do they translate out into? Order and chaos, oftentimes. Saturn is order, and Uranus can turn into chaos. So, there's been a lot in personalizing out in the world that's been kind of teetering there. And I want to talk about some of the things that we can look for out in the world before I finish today. This week, Jupiter will be at 28, at the end of it, 29 degrees of Aquarius before it goes into Pisces at the end of this month. I've mentioned it before, but 28 degrees of fixed signs is a really important spot in the zodiac. It's one of the reasons I was able to make the predictions about things heating up with Russia and Ukraine, and with China and Taiwan, Israel and Iran, all these things, because so many of these countries have something at 28 degrees of fixed signs. Israel's Mars is at 28 degrees of Leo. North Korea's Saturn is at 28 degrees of Leo. Ukraine, in its independence chart, has Venus at 28 degrees of Aquarius. And in its other independence chart from 1991, when it broke away from the Soviet Union, 28 degrees of Leo. Syria, 28 degrees of Aquarius is his nodes. Lebanon, its Uranus is at 28 degrees of Taurus. Israel, most importantly, it's Mars at 28 degrees of Leo. So all of these, and the United States, Moon is at almost 28 degrees of Aquarius. Joe Biden's sun is at 28 degrees of Scorpio. Kamala Harris is vice president. Saturn is at 28 degrees of Aquarius. Hello? That's why I was able to make some of these, like, certain things are going to happen. So what happens now is all these issues are heating up. Russia right on the verge of going into Ukraine and taking it over. China threatening to go into Taiwan and taking it over. Oh, I forgot Trump. His Mars is at 27 degrees of Leo, rising sign at 29. They're having this January 6th investigation, right, of the storming of the Capitol back on January 6th of 2021. That's the culture war that's fairly strong now. And that's a picture of that culture war, is that investigation. You remember in Charlottesville in August of 2017, when the Nazis were protesting taking down some Confederate statue, and then they ended up running over some woman and killing her. And Trump at that time said something like, well, there's good people on both sides, something like that. And that was our knowing that this culture war is going to get stronger. And hopefully it doesn't go too far. So right now, the rest of this month, as we finish up the eclipse season, real turning point, especially this week. What happens in all those areas that I just told you is going to have a lot to do with where things are turning. Remember, through it all, that's the 3D world. That's the old age. That's the world that's based on might makes right, greed. Doing it my way is the only way to do it. Might makes right. All of that is from that old age, based on a sense that everything is separate. In the new world, everything is connected. Everything has meaning. Life doesn't happen by chance. I don't think it does at all, actually. Some people, I understand other people have different opinions, and I respect them. And as far as like how much is meant to be and how much am I choosing and how much is random chance, I don't know. I think I'd like to bring on Belinda now, and let's see what she's got to say about some of this. And maybe Deborah's got some thoughts too when we start talking to her. Hi, Belinda.
Hi, Leo.
How are you?
I'm good. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you here. So tell everybody a little bit more about what you do. I just said a little bit about it. I wanted to, because today I want to focus especially on where you're getting your PhD, in psychedelics. But let people know all that you do and how to get a hold of you.
Yes. So I work one-on-one with people and in group settings. And essentially I'm working with people now who are ready to kind of make the shift in how they're creating their realities. So, you were just speaking about this paradigm shift. And I think part of that paradigm shift is embodying fully as a divine co-creator. And so suddenly we are having full access to creating sort of from the wholeness of our heart and co-creation with source, as opposed to, I think, this long history we've just all experienced of creating from trauma and wound and karma and as opportunities to heal. But I think when we look at it from that perspective, we can't really shift the reality if we're creating from those places. We actually have to create from present moment and surrender to source. So I am working with people with psychedelics as well, and a big part of my work is actually focused on the very human aspect, like our biology and our nervous systems, and really looking at therapy through that lens, through somatics. Because the reality is, like, we can't actually let go of any of this trauma and heal if our biology isn't allowing us to do so. So it's
especially important with all the technology and things that take us out of our bodies and the earth,
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, the state of the world right now, so many of us are actually in a trauma response and don't even know it. We're existing in fight, flight, freeze. And when you're in those states of being, you actually don't even have access to the part of your brain that allows you to make any kind of meaningful decision in life, and also the part of your brain that allows you to create and be creative. So, I think on this healing journey and the really beautiful role psychedelics can play right now is actually helping to regulate nervous systems again.
Let's talk about that a little bit, about the psychedelics and exactly what you're talking about. Like, how does it help you to move out of those kind of stuck places? I mean, I've done them. Deborah's done them too. So I mean, I know from my own standpoint, but from your work, from what your belief is, what does it? How does it help people to break out of these things and to break out of their trauma and break out of where they're stuck with these old stories? How does it happen?
Yeah. So the way that I see it is, in order to actually begin sort of releasing these stories and releasing the trauma, we actually have to feel safe enough to do so on a really biological level. So I look at a medicine, even like MDMA, which isn't necessarily an earth-based medicine, but is a big heart opener, a beautiful medicine.
Yes.
And what I'm finding is that when people work with MDMA, they're actually able to fully express without fear.
Yes.
And so they actually can drop into some things that they have just kept so hidden from themselves for so long, because it doesn't
the
feel
feeling of safety. The feeling
very
of safety.
overwhelming.
I agree that the feeling of safety with MDMA, you're like safely in your heart. It just feels so protected. It's so natural to just say whatever's there. It's true.
Totally. Yeah. And I look at it, what's available right now with the medicines and our current reality and where people just are kind of on a biological level and us as a collective. And then I also am looking at it from this perspective of like this big paradigm shift we're in as well.
Yeah.
I feel like so much of the shift is actually this return to natural order, but within that, an inherent safety. So what I'm actually seeing in my work is this overlap of people sort of regulating their nervous system, returning back to their own sense of inherent safety. And I feel like this is playing out right now too, even with the masculine and feminine, with Venus dropping into retrograde, which is like, what I sense and what I'm seeing is the masculine thinking it needs to sort of save. And she's dropping into the underworld, and the masculine showing up, and it's like, I need to save you. And almost what the feminine is being asked to claim right now is like, you don't need to save me. I'm safe. There's nothing to save me from. So I'm seeing that sort of in the collective. I'm seeing, this very sort of human experience of returning back to inherent safety within the body, so that our nervous systems aren't responding to the world from a place of fear. And in that return on a very biological level, I'm actually seeing people fully return to their relationship with God. And it's really beautiful. But that connection is like, that feels like such an opportunity where psychedelics can come in and play that role and really help us on a very human level and actually bring us back into the relationship I think we're all actually super hungry for and have been seeking.
Yes.
Why we're doing all of this work in the first place is that relationship to wholeness in ourselves and in the world around us as well. So
I know you work a lot with Mother, as Deborah does. She'll weigh in on this too when I bring her on. But in fact, you both have worked with the Center for. I always get them mixed up. Deborah will tell me Center for All Life, Center for something like that. Deborah, help me for a second here.
For All Life.
Center for All Life.
Hey, it's the Circle for All Life with the Mother Earth Restoration Trust.
Yeah, and Belinda has some work with them too. True, Belinda?
You know what? I have a lot of connections there. I haven't actually kind of personally dropped in with them. Yeah.
But you're still with that idea of returning to the mother.
Oh,
returning to our bodies is like returning to the mother in a way, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I think once you even try on that perspective for size, your whole relationship to yourself and your body dramatically changes as well.
Yeah. And you know what you said about the male not saving the female, that's going to have such a big change in how we relate to one another. That's going to be deeply transformational, because that's so locked into our habits and our stories, is that, the man needs to save the woman for, like, she's this weak victim and she can't do it on her own.
Yeah. And I'm seeing it with some of my male clients who are very masculine identified. There is sort of this momentary confusion, because I think so much of their sense of worth was also derived from playing that role.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I'm also seeing it within my own masculine and feminine in the way I relate to myself. Like,
say more about that.
I think I'm noticing this confusion of self. Like I don't have to always just keep track and make sure I'm safe, and that I don't have to constantly figure out exactly what's going on. Like, I'm dropping into this deeper trust that I've cognitively always known, like, is there and available. But I think that I'm embodying that more fully. And it's interesting. I often will look at my own masculine as my egoic mind, and then I look at my feminine as my soul, and I come into wholeness in my heart.
Yeah. Yes.
But I look at that relationship always, and I'm like, is my egoic mind and my soul actually in harmony? Like, are they supporting each other? Is there sort of that natural order within myself?
Yes.
And I think where I even almost slip out of that harmony is in that concept that I'm not safe, and that I need to save myself. Like,
Right.
And I know there's a lot of women right now sort of finally stepping out of maiden and into mother, which is like such an energy we need so alive in the world right now. And that's a good journey that can take a woman's whole lifetime sometimes. And so, like the maiden in shadow, it's damsel. So
In distress.
Yep. Yeah. And like, we kind of arrive at that place where, like, we realize we can save ourselves, and then there's like a larger cosmic joke, like the universe sort of chuckles at us, and there's like, there's nothing to save you from, you know?
Yeah.
It was a deeply humbling experience. But I think it comes from this shift into this new paradigm as well, because in this world of separation and the history we've actually been experiencing, yeah, it didn't feel safe. It was actually quite painful. And, you know, I think so many people are carrying this rich history of remembering lifetimes where they actually were killed for being themselves. So it's a huge shift on so many levels, like from our biology, but to our soul almost has to receive that same memo that we're inherently safe now as well. And all the aspects of ourself, like all of our like soul aspects from different lineages as well. Ushering all of those back almost like through your heart into this new reality of safety.
And of course, as a woman does that, or as a man does this combination of the male and female together inside in a new way, they're going to attract all different people than they used to attract to themselves.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I feel like I had a very humbling experience the last couple of years in naming all of the unpleasant experiences I've had with the masculine and men in this world, and even sort of in the workforce and in my experiences in the patriarchy, as simply a reflection of my own wounded masculine, you know, and naming that, like, could finally take the accountability to make any kind of meaningful change.
Accountability, yes.
Most important. But it's still like the shedding of that victim mentality as well. That's like
accountability, indeed. Venus and Capricorn. There are two women on the camera right now who both have their Venus in Capricorn, by the way. And that's where the Venus is going retrograde tomorrow. It's right where you two have your Venuses, in Capricorn. I want to thank you very much for coming to. Will you come back on January 8th? We're going to have a big extra hour and a half, 2 hour show then. Would you like to come back?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Good. Sounds good. Thanks for being with us again, Linda.
Yeah. Thanks, Leo.
Give people a way to get a hold of you one more time.
Oh, you know what? I don't even have I'm so off the grid. I don't even have a website. You can just email me if you're interested, or you can find me on Instagram, Belinda-Wolfson on Instagram, and then my email is belinda.claire@gmail.com. Yeah, either one of those works.
Sounds good. Take good care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bye. Hey, hi, Deborah.
Hey there. So I wanted to pick up about the Venus and Capricorn and the Venus retrograde. So, you know, I loved what you said about Venus going retrograde and that focus on our relationships and relationship patterns. But from another perspective that I've been studying as I've been working with the cycle of Venus over the last few years, is that it's also where the goddess, and in this case, it's actually we're leaving a 19-month Venus cycle that began with Venus in Gemini. So it's like Gemini was like the overarching like goddess, the Gemini goddess, over that ending 18-month cycle. And then now with the Venus and Capricorn going retrograde, it's so she's metamorphosizing and transforming from Gemini into the Capricorn goddess and getting ready to begin a whole new 19-month cycle. So I think that's really profound. Mm-hmm. And especially with Pluto right there. So
right.
It's big time.
I'm glad you brought that up. Pluto's right there with Venus and will be for a good amount of time on this retrograde cycle for Venus.
Yes. And so that brings a whole other very deep dimension. And, you know, with, I think Pluto's going to pass, I don't know how many passes as Venus goes retrograde. So it's really, I mean, it's a powerful transformational time right now as we have the full moon today, and then we get ready for the solstice and
big week.
Venus retrograde and all that you talked about today.
Yeah, it's a big week. It's a big turning point. I mean, you know, Venus will continue after this week going retrograde, but
right,
just for the eclipse season, it's kind of starting to come to an end by the end of this week, and by Christmas, New Year's, right around in there. And so it's a big turning point for you, everyone out there in your personal lives, and also for the greater world. You want to take a look at what happens in all those issues that I told you about. Take a look and see if you can get a feel for what direction they're going in. Because the way things fall into place after this week will tell us a lot about what's going to happen and what we need for our transformation. Deb, would you give us a nice meditation? We've got time.
Yeah, so we'll do a little meditation today to bring us into awareness with the full moon. And the thing that is so interesting and added power to this full moon is that with the sun at 27 plus degrees of Sagittarius, is actually in alignment with the galactic center of our solar system. So I think that adds an added power to this full moon. And also, I think it's interesting with the Gemini Venus cycle ending, and we have this full moon now, right? As Venus is getting ready in Gemini, as Venus is getting ready to go retrograde in Capricorn. So it feels extra potent. So
with that and the Gemini Sagittarius energies, for people to be calm and centered is like really important right now.
Yes, and as most people know, I know because I have multiple Sagittarius. Yes. Besides my Venus and Capricorn, thank goodness I have that to ground me. Yes. But for those of us that know Gemini and Sag, it can be very ungrounded and scattered at times. I can attest to that. And so today is an especially powerful, a good time to, every day is good to ground to Mother Earth, yes. But especially with these, expansive and somewhat scattered energies.
Definitely. Nervous system can really be alive during this
yes.
kind of thing.
Yeah, so to really connect with the mother, feel your feet on the ground, take a walk. I recommend people I'm going to just say this before we do the meditation, to go out under the full moon. You can take your sacred objects and your crystals out to receive the light of the moon to charge them. And then also to just, raise your hands up to the moon, like your arms are like a chalice, and just really receive the blessings. So we'll do a little bit of that in this meditation. So I'm going to start, and I know we only have a few minutes for the meditation.
Yeah.
So let us all bring ourselves into our hearts now. And you might want to close your eyes and just go within. And just begin to follow the natural rhythm of your breath as it moves inward and outward, like the waves of the ocean, moving into shore and moving out again. That natural ebb and flow of your breath. Then bringing your awareness into your sacred heart center, into the threefold flame of your heart, the place where your divinity lies within you, the flames of your Holy Spirit. And since it is just hours away from the full moon tonight, we're going to start tuning into this full moon with the sun near the galactic center, bringing light codes and frequencies, galactic center to bless us at this full moon. And just imagine now the full moon that hasn't risen where most of us are right now, at least in the United States. And just imagine that full moon in Gemini, the magical, multi-dimensional, changing, shifting energies of Gemini. And just feel yourself opening your heart to the full moon. Open yourself. Open your heart and feel your heart aligning with the full moon energies. You might even imagine the full moon above your head. And the light of that full moon coming down through your chakras, beginning at your soul star above the crown and coming into the crown and then flowing down through each of your chakras. And just really feeling the vibration, the energy of this Gemini full moon. And then just opening your mind's eye, your heart, your full being to receive the message now for yourself, or for your life, or for the planet. Feeling the goddesses of the full moon surrounding you. Goddess Iris, Lakshmi, Sarasvati, Isis and Hati, Celine and Michelle, the goddesses of this full moon. Just feel them standing around you and feel the energy of Grandmother Moon as she pours her light down upon you. Just open to receive a message of wisdom from heaven. As she reminds us to remember our magical nature, but to keep our feet grounded and connected to Mother Earth. And just give thanks for whatever message you've received or will continue to receive throughout the day and into the night and overnight. Notice your dreams that you have tonight. And just give thanks for all you've received. Remembering that the full moon is a beautiful time of gratitude for all that's come to maturation in your life and since the last new moon eclipse we had 2 weeks ago. So just taking some time to give thanks for all the blessings in your life. And remember to put out your prayers to the planet, because it's a very potent time when our prayers are being received and magnified. So we leave you with that now. Thank you so much. And if anyone wants to reach me, I'm doing a ceremony in an hour. That's kind of late notice for anyone that's listening, but
More people.
Gemini full moon ceremony on Zoom. You can reach me at Alelia at GaiaSophiaTempleOfTheHeart.com, and that's ELIA, which is my spiritual name, Alelia at GaiaSophiaTempleOfTheHeart.com, and visit my website, GaiaSophiaTempleOfTheHeart.com. Thank you so much, Leo. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Belinda. And may the blessings of this beautiful, magical, potent full moon be upon you and all beings.
Thank you, Deb. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me at Solus, SOULUS, at AOL.com. And please remember now, on January 8th, we have an extended show that's going to have some forecasting of the year ahead by me and by some other people also. And we might even get a little bit of the UFO alien guest type person coming on. Extended broadcast. Stay with it, January 8th, same time. Take care, everybody. Bye.